Hi and welcome to my channel. So I recently shared a video on here about the UK stopping the recruitment of overseas nurses, which means that the UK will stop recruiting overseas nurses to come to the UK. And by the way, that particular news, it's true looking at the updates that have been so far. So in this video, I'm going to be telling you what does this mean for you if you're out of the UK or in the UK, but most importantly, what does this actually mean for the English changes that were announced by the NMC. So if you're new to my channel, you're welcome here. If you're a returning subscriber, obviously, I do appreciate the time you take to watch these videos. And I hope that you're actually implementing the things that I'm talking about. And look, I'm going to say that you need to make sure that your decisions are being led by policies. Your decisions are being led by the laws of the land. Your decisions are being led by what the leadership is actually saying rather than just emotion. I do understand that emotions can run high. That is very normal. We're human beings. But at the end of the day, you must make sure that you're following the policies, what is going on, because every single thing that happens, in healthcare especially, is kind of governed by those underpinning policies and those people that are in leadership positions, which means that as the leadership changes, rules and policies are going to change. Because, for example, the recruitment of carers in the UK has not always been there. 3 years ago, overseas carers could not come and work in the UK, but someone decided to change the policy and now carers can move to the UK. It's the same thing that happens every time. So with nursing, it is not any different. Until 3 years ago, for example, only few overseas nurses were moving to the UK every single year. Why is that? Because of the policies that were in place. But then somebody decided to kind of change things, change the staffing numbers as well. And by so doing, they've also given more funding for organizations that are recruiting overseas. And that is the reason why overseas recruitment, of nurses kind of increased in the last couple of years. Obviously, COVID-19 also kind of exacerbated the whole situation. And by the way, before I forget, I have a newsletter where I send you the most up-to-date information of everything that's going on in the UK, career progression pathways, side business opportunities, work from home opportunities. So if you check the comment section below, you're going to see a link to my newsletter. You 100% want to join that newsletter so that you're informed of whatever is going on, because you don't want to rely on the YouTube algorithm, to get such important information for your career, for your progress, and for you to be able to thrive in the UK. So it's not going to take you up to 30 seconds to actually join the newsletter. So check the comment section below. You just need to drop your name and email, and that is it. And also, if you do want to send me a message privately and you're thinking, oh my God, I don't want to put this on YouTube again, the good way is that you're going to see my contacts on that newsletter and you can then email me directly. Because like I say, you must not let your emotions kind of overshadow your thinking, because at the end of the day, you must be led by the policies. Unfortunately, there are going to be policies that none of us like or some people don't agree with, but those are the policies. We need to work on those policies. We need to adhere to those policies. And me being a nurse, I understand the importance of policies. And I know that some people like to just be like, oh, you just need, good information. You just need to make us happy. You just need to share things that are seen to be good. But no, policies are very important. I know that this is an opinion that is very unpopular, but I'm somebody who is very keen on policies. And so if you're watching my videos, then yes, you're going to be finding all those updates about all the policies, because I'm all about making more informed decisions, being led by the policies of the land rather than being led just by your own emotion. Because yes, emotions are good, but again, they can be dangerous. So what does this actually mean for, nurses who are out of the UK? So the NMC has indeed confirmed that they will be going ahead with the English language changes. And again, I'm going to say that not once did the NMC ever say that the changes were going to be implemented in January of 2023. The NMC said that the changes would be implemented earliest January of 2023. So obviously, the latest update has been that the NMC is working on their system. They're trying to upgrade their system. They're trying to kind of adapt their system to actually accepting the new English changes. And there's also a major thing that I've got to come up with, which is a document that the people who are in the UK and eligible to use the employer reference are going to use. So they need to come up with a universal form the NMC has said that everyone is going to use, and that is going to be to reduce bias. Again, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, I want you to hit subscribe right now. Turn on that notification button, because you 100% want to be the first to be notified every single time when I drop a new video on here. Also, if you like the video, just hit that like button, because it lets me know that you like content like this and I should do more of it. Again, like I say, some of these opinions are not going to be popular opinions, but these are policies. And yes, we do need to know what these policies are so that, again, you are led and you're guided to make more informed decisions led by those policies and not just, your emotions. So, that's the update with regards to those English changes. So yes, they're going to be coming into force. The fact that, they're stopping overseas nurse recruitment is something that is going to be gradual. Again, overseas nurse recruitment has never been a long-term plan for the UK. It's always been a short-term plan. In fact, many people would be surprised to know right now that until a few years ago, overseas nurses, overseas, international students were not allowed to study nursing in the UK. I remember when I studied nursing, when I came to the UK, overseas nurses or international students could not study any nursing course in the UK. You had to be British, you had to be European, and have lived in the UK for actually 3 years, or you had to have indefinite leave to remain in the UK, which is permanent residency. If you were an international student, you were not allowed. And like I say, only until a few years ago. So you can see how policies have changed in the last few years, and most of the nursing courses are now actually made up of overseas and international students. So again, that is why these policies are important. Like I say, we may not always agree with all of the policies, but unfortunately those policies are going to guide what else is going to happen next. And so it is very important, even when you're already in the UK, that you're checking what the policies are, because again, many people end up sacked, struck off, because they're not aware of what policies are. And that is why you need to make these policies part and parcel of you, especially working in a delicate environment such as healthcare. If you're a nurse especially, it is particularly vital to think about those local policies, international guidelines, NMC code of conduct. All those things are absolutely vital. So like I've said, if you're out of the UK, obviously, overseas nurse recruitment is going to be ongoing, but it is only a temporary measure. It is only a short-term plan. The long-term plan, which the NMC and the UK is working towards, is that of getting more people in the UK to actually study nursing in the UK, so that, they have that homegrown talent, to be able to take over these positions. And this is because of different reasons. Again, some of these reasons also have to do with policy, because it is expensive. That's the first thing. Overseas nurse recruitment is very, very expensive. It can cost up to £10,000 to recruit one nurse from overseas, even though the nurse is not, directly paying that money, but that's how much it costs the actual employer when you put everything together. Because obviously, as you know, many of these employers will reimburse, your fees for all the different exams, or pay the OSCE fees. If you're recruited through an agency, the agency fees are pretty high as well. So all those costs are obviously incorporated. But if you recruit somebody from within the UK, you don't actually have to pay all these fees. So when you put all those fees together, those are millions and millions of money. It's millions. So again, many trusts that are recruiting from overseas, they are doing that as a temporary measure. Again, I'm going to say this, it is not a long-term plan. So the long-term plan is what the NMC has now announced, which means that they are making universities more flexible to get a more diverse workforce, for student nurses. They are wanting to reduce the hours, placement hours that student nurses have to do. They are wanting to also have more simulation hours so that people don't need face-to-face placements and they can have more virtual placements. They're trying to get other, ethnic minorities to get more into nursing. So these are some of the policies that they are having that are going to have the long-term impact. But obviously, these policies, the NMC has already said that, obviously they've been approved and they're going to be implementing these policies in the next few weeks. And obviously the plan is that as these policies are rolled out and they begin to yield the required outcome, then overseas nurse recruitment is obviously going to reduce and decline. That is the truth, about the whole matter, because like I say, overseas nurse recruitment has always been a temporary measure. It is not a long-term plan for the UK, because of obviously cost, and there's also challenges with getting nurses, to integrate quickly within the system. Look, it is challenging enough when you study in the UK. It is even more challenging when you've studied overseas. So obviously, the effort of overseas nurses has always been appreciated, especially by the NMC. The NMC has actually called for everybody in the UK to welcome overseas nurses, to support overseas nurses, and ensure that, they get the support that they need, without being, made to feel that they are not welcome or anything like that. The NMC has continued to stress on that particular fact. So it's not that, they don't want to cease recruitment per se, but they need a long-term strategy, a long-term plan that will come into place and then reduce the need for overseas nurses. Again, like I say, until 2 years ago, the UK was only recruiting few thousand nurses from overseas. This whole thing about recruiting over 20,000 has only been in the last couple of years, and again, that has been driven by policy, by COVID-19, especially that brought a massive need in every country. That has also been brought by funding. As you know, the NHS is currently going through a massive crisis, and all those things are going to influence how those policies are made. The leadership structure is also very important. There's also been a lot of pressure on the UK, to reduce the overseas nurse recruitment that they are doing, because they've been criticized by the International Nursing Council as well as other countries, and the World Health Organization, saying, look, you're recruiting too many people from overseas, too many healthcare professionals, too many nurses. It is not fair on these countries. And so obviously the UK has been looking for strategies to train more nurses. And this is what the NMC has now approved. These are the changes that the NMC has now announced. But again, the changes regarding English language tests will still be going ahead, because like I say, these new policies are going to take a while to be able to yield the required fruit, which means that if you're overseas, as a nurse, and you want to come to the UK, of course, you just need to make hay while the sun shines, because like I say, it's going to go back to how it used to be, a few years ago, when overseas nurse recruitment was not such a massive thing in the UK, and they were just recruiting modest numbers from various countries, especially India and the Philippines. These are the two top countries that have always been for UK overseas nurse recruitment. It's only until recently that there are so many numbers from Africa, country. You've got Nigeria, you've got Zimbabwe, South Africa, and Ghana that have currently had a massive drive. But in the last few years, it was only a few hundred nurses that were recruited from these countries. Again, that has been driven by policy, and that's why policies are so incredibly important. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel, again, you just want to hit subscribe. Have you got any comments? I'm more than happy to hear what your thoughts and your comments are. What do you think about these new policies? Are you already in the UK? Are you currently preparing to move to the UK? What is your thought? Do you think this is very discouraging for you? Do you think this is encouraging for you to get that push that you need in order to maybe register for your IELTS exam, in order to pass your CBT, in order to pass your OSCE or your OET? If you're already in the UK as a carer, is this a drive for you to get into nursing? If you're already a midwife and in the UK again as a carer, is this a drive for you to upgrade your midwifery training, so that you get to that position? If you have been thinking about getting into nursing, is this the time for you as well, to finally get into nursing, become a nurse? As the whole thing that the NMC is doing is that they are making it easier for more people to get into nursing. Not only that, but they're trying to make the course, have fewer hours, so that this is going to increase success rate, is going to increase the pass rate for the students on these courses, and ultimately increase the number of nurses in the UK. And the overall objective for this is to reduce the number of overseas nurses that are therefore recruited, because as you increase the home students, you then will reduce overseas recruitment. And obviously, like I said, that has huge implications when it comes to cost, for those organizations. It also has huge implications when it comes to support as well. And it has huge implications for the nurses as well who are out of the UK. But again, it's how you look at it, because at the end of the day, policy, should drive your plans. Policy should drive your decision making. Very important. If you've got a family, you want to move to the UK, you need to be looking at the policies. What are the policies in the UK regarding kids? Is school free for children? If so, how long for? What about childcare? What about the pay, for nurses, or whatever it is that you're doing? Again, that's why I say the policies are very important. And yes, while we may not like some of the policies that will be coming out, but it is also important that we know those policies, as much as these are unpopular opinions. Like I say, the video that I shared has had mixed emotions. I've had people message me saying, oh my God, Melvis, is this really happening? I've been preparing for my IELTS. Do you think it's still worth it? Other people are like, oh my God, this is a good push for me to to be able to get my OET, to pass my OET next month, or pass my IELTS, or get myself started on the NMC's process. Or other people are quite pleased as well, saying, oh, this is the perfect time for me to get into nursing and get to become a nurse, because look, I've left it for way too long. So again, like I say, every single policy is not always going to be working for everybody, but you can make a positive outcome out of it. And yes, you cannot ignore the policies. You must let yourself be guided by those policies. And again, if you haven't joined my newsletter, I do want you to check the comment section below. You just need to drop your name and email. It's really easy. If you've also got a question that you're thinking, oh my goodness, I don't want to put this out on YouTube, you can also use that. If you have a comment, leave it in the comment section, and we'll be able to see and explore and say, look, what's going on here? What do you think is the best route, the best pathway? What is happening with this policy? And like I say, the English changes are 100% going ahead. But, the NMC is currently upgrading and updating the system to be able to accommodate these changes. And they're also coming up with that universal form that every single person is going to use to get that employer reference, to make sure that there's no bias. So again, keep watching the videos. And if you haven't watched the video that I made about, stopping recruitment of overseas nurses and why this is the case, obviously this video that I'm recording right now is a part 2 of that. You need to watch that video so that you understand what these policies are that the NMC has recently implemented and how these policies are going to affect you, because again, that is very, very important. It's also part of growth and leadership. As a healthcare professional, you need to embrace these policies. Whether you like the policies or not, these are the policies that govern the profession. These are the policies that have been put in place by the leadership of nursing, and so we really cannot ignore the policies. So again, what are your thoughts on this? Do watch the video and make sure that you are making hay while the sun shines. Thank you very much. Keep watching the videos. Bye for now.